Sometimes the smallest details hold the biggest secrets. In the world of forensic investigation, it's often the things we overlook, the fragments, the fibers, the nearly invisible, that can change everything we think we know. In Michelle Lee's case, it was a single synthetic fiber, overlooked, misunderstood, and nearly forgotten. This tiny thread, no longer than a few millimeters, seemed insignificant at first, just another speck in a sea of evidence. This thread, invisible to the naked eye, was found on Michelle's clothing after her disappearance in May 2011. It was collected carefully, bagged and labeled, but its meaning was a mystery. For years, it sat in an evidence file, its significance unknown. It was just one of hundreds of items quietly waiting in the shadows of a police locker, its story untold. Michelle, a promising nursing student, vanished without a trace, leaving her family devastated. Her loved ones clung to hope, searching for answers, haunted by questions that seemed to have no end. The investigation led to Giselle Esteban, a former friend, convicted on what seemed like overwhelming evidence: DNA, cell phone data, motive. The prosecution built a compelling case, and the public believed the story was complete. The case appeared airtight. Justice, it seemed, was served. The community breathed a sigh of relief, believing the truth had finally come to light. But the fiber didn't fit the narrative. It was an anomaly, a question mark in a story that was supposed to be resolved. At the time, forensic science couldn't identify its source, so it was dismissed as inconclusive. Years passed, technology advanced, new methods emerged, allowing scientists to revisit old evidence with fresh eyes. Suddenly, that tiny fiber told a new story, one that didn't point to Esteban. The results were unexpected, raising more questions than answers. It hinted at another presence, another possibility. Someone else may have been there, someone who had gone unnoticed all these years. Could the accepted narrative be incomplete? Could the story everyone believed be missing a crucial chapter? This new evidence doesn't exonerate anyone, but it cracks open a door long thought closed. It invites us to look again, to question what we thought we knew. It forces us to re-examine the timeline, the evidence, and our assumptions. Every piece of the puzzle must be reconsidered, every theory re-evaluated. The legal system demands certainty, but this fiber introduces doubt. It reminds us that justice is not always as clear-cut as it seems. It's a journey back into a cold case, guided by a single, almost weightless clue. The past is never truly settled when new evidence comes to light. What if the truth is more complicated than we ever imagined? What if the answers we seek are still out there waiting to be found? What if justice was only half served? The scales may have tipped, but perhaps not in the right direction. The story of Michelle Lee is not over. For her family, for investigators, and for all who seek the truth, the search continues. It begins again, with a single thread. Sometimes the smallest clue can unravel the biggest mystery. May 27, 2011. Hayward, California. A city known for its quiet neighborhoods and bustling community life, suddenly finds itself at the center of a chilling mystery. Michelle Lee, a dedicated nursing student with a bright future, steps out of Kaiser Permanente Medical Center for what should have been a routine errand. She's focused, determined, and just weeks away from graduation. She tells a classmate she's heading to her car, promising to be right back. But Michelle never returns. In a matter of minutes, she vanishes without a trace. Her car is found abandoned in a nearby parking garage. There's no sign of Michelle and no obvious struggle. The scene is eerily quiet, as if she simply disappeared into thin air. Calls to her phone go unanswered. Friends and family grow increasingly anxious, their messages turning from casual to desperate as hours tick by. Police and volunteers mobilize quickly, launching a massive search effort. They comb through parks, neighborhoods, and open fields, hoping for any sign of Michelle. Flyers go up on every corner. The media descends on Hayward, broadcasting Michelle's story across the Bay Area and beyond. Her face becomes a symbol of hope and fear. Days pass. Each sunset brings more uncertainty. The hope of finding Michelle safe begins to fade, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Investigators zero in on her car and her cell phone records, searching for any clue that might explain her sudden disappearance. Then a chilling discovery: blood is found inside Michelle's vehicle. Tests confirm it's hers. The investigation takes a dark turn. Her phone pings reveal a disturbing pattern. Her device moved away from Hayward, traveling toward the remote stretches of Alameda County, far from where she was last seen. The evidence is mounting. This was no simple disappearance, it was violent, it was sinister. The community's worst fears are realized, the search intensifies. Law enforcement expands their efforts, scouring rugged terrain and dense woods, but answers remain elusive. The community rallies together, holding vigils and supporting Michelle's family. But as hope dims, fear and uncertainty take hold. The case quickly becomes a race against time. Every hour that passes feels heavier than the last. Detectives pore over every detail, scrutinizing clues and chasing down every possible lead, determined not to let Michelle's case go cold. But Michelle is still missing. The investigation grows desperate, and the pressure mounts with each passing day. The trail leads to a remote canyon, a place both beautiful and foreboding. The picture is grim, and hope is fading fast. The hope for a safe return is slipping away. The community braces for the worst, clinging to any shred of optimism. The truth is out there, but it's buried deep, hidden beneath layers of fear, uncertainty, and heartbreak. And the clock is ticking. For Michelle, for her family, and for the investigators racing to uncover what really happened that day. The investigation zeroes in on Giselle Esteban, Michelle's former friend. Their friendship had soured, fueled by jealousy and suspicion. Esteban believed Michelle was involved with her child's father. Angry texts, erratic behavior. Esteban becomes the prime suspect. Security footage places her near Michelle's car. DNA evidence links her to Michelle's vehicle. Michelle's DNA is found on Esteban's shoe. Cell phone data shows both women's phones moving together toward the canyon. Esteban denies involvement, but her story shifts. The evidence mounts motive, opportunity, forensic links. In September 2011, Esteban is arrested before Michelle's body is even found. Weeks later, Michelle's remains are discovered in Sunyol Canyon. The location matches the cell phone trail. The case seems closed. Esteban goes to trial, is found guilty, and sentenced to 25 years to life. For the public and the justice system, the story ends here, but evidence can be deceiving. Sometimes what looks like a complete picture is missing a crucial piece, and sometimes that piece is almost invisible. With Esteban convicted, the headlines faded. For Michelle's family, the pain never did. They honored her memory, started a foundation, and supported other families of missing persons. But questions lingered. Was the story really that simple? They trusted the verdict but yearned for absolute certainty. Hope persisted, not for overturning the conviction but for the full truth. They lived with the verdict but also with doubt. For over a decade they carried this quiet burden. Then a new forensic review offered a reason to look back. Advances in science brought a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to discover. The search for answers was never truly over. And now, it was about to begin again. What reopens a closed case? Sometimes it's new technology. In the 2020s, forensic science made leaps in fiber analysis. Alameda County launched a program to re-examine old cases with modern tools. Michelle Lee's case was selected. Routine, they thought. Evidence was pulled from storage, including Michelle's scrubs. Scientists applied new methods, searching for overlooked clues. For weeks nothing changed until a single dark blue fiber stood out. It didn't match Esteban or her car. Suddenly a forgotten detail became a potential game changer. The past was no longer settled. The new forensic report zeroed in on a single, seemingly insignificant detail, that dark blue fiber. What at first looked like a trivial thread, overlooked in the chaos of evidence, was about to become the key to unraveling the case. Previous tests had simply labeled it unidentified synthetic, a dead end in the investigation. For years, it sat in the evidence locker, its secrets locked away. But now, with new technology and fresh eyes, the science told a different story. One that would challenge everything investigators thought they knew. Using advanced chemical analysis and microscopic comparison, scientists traced the fiber to a unique nylon-polyester blend. This wasn't just any fabric, it was fire retardant, manufactured specifically for European car upholstery between 2008 and 2010. The specificity was startling. That meant the fiber couldn't have come from Esteban's American-made car, which used entirely different materials. The fiber was found deeply embedded in the cuff of Michelle's pants, clear evidence of close, sustained contact, not just a fleeting brush. When compared to all of Esteban's belongings, the fiber was a complete mismatch. It didn't belong to him, or to anything he owned. The prosecution's theory, that Esteban acted alone, using her own car, suddenly seemed shaky. The foundation of their case was now in doubt. The fiber pointed to a different vehicle entirely, a European model never linked to Esteban, never even considered before. The report didn't assign guilt or innocence, but it shattered the old narrative, forcing everyone to reconsider what really happened. Science had uncovered an unknown element, a new location, a new person, and a new set of questions that no one had asked before. Suddenly the case was no longer as simple as it once seemed. Every assumption was up for debate. The evidence pointed to a missing piece, a gap in the story that demanded to be filled. The narrative had shifted. The truth, it turned out, was far more complicated than anyone had imagined. Now, the search for answers had a new direction, and investigators were forced to look beyond the obvious. The fiber was no longer silent. It was speaking volumes, demanding that the truth finally be heard. This single fiber forces a re-examination of the entire case. It doesn't erase the evidence against Esteban, but it complicates it. The narrative of a lone attacker is now in question. Was there an accomplice? Another vehicle? Someone else involved? The investigation never looked beyond Esteban. Now the possibility of a co-conspirator, or even a different primary suspect, must be considered. The blue fiber is a stubborn fact demanding explanation. It introduces reasonable doubt that didn't exist before. The case is no longer closed. The truth is incomplete. Science has broken the narrative. The search for justice must continue. The legal impact is immediate. Esteban's lawyers file for a new trial, citing the fiber as reasonable doubt. The DA faces a dilemma: defend the old conviction or reopen the case. For Michelle's family, old wounds reopen, and new questions haunt them. The case is now a cautionary tale, how evolving science can upend even the most settled verdicts. Michelle Lee's story is no longer just a closed case. A single fiber has reignited the search for truth. The path forward is uncertain: courtrooms, labs, and maybe a new investigation. For her family, it's about answers, not just justice. The new evidence raises more questions than it answers. But those questions must be asked. Justice demands it. Michelle's memory deserves it. The search for the source of that fiber and the person behind it has just begun. We'll follow this story as it unfolds. The search for truth continues.